rough, like most of my videos. Unpolished, just me sharing a few things that I hope might help somebody out there. A few tips, and as always, sharing a little bit more of testimony because it is ongoing, and that is how we defeat the adversary, through the word of our testimony and the blood of the Lamb. So I want to talk real quick about something, and then I want to show you something, again, that I think is pretty cool and that I hope helps you on the journey that you're on. So I'm going to do my best here. I've never used this camera in this way, so hopefully everything goes all right. I don't even know what all the settings are. Oh, that's better lighting. Do you guys like that better? That might help with the reading, but oh no, I didn't mean to do that. See, I don't know what any of the buttons do. That's so funny. Okay, so I want to tell you a quick story, a quick testimony. This is, I'm going to switch. I'm just going to turn it myself here. Oh geez, orientation is locked. Never mind. So this is my little dresser. Most people probably think it's super humble. I think it's more than what I deserve. I'd like to move back and show y'all. Everything's real tidy. Now I moved and rearranged everything for the new season, and because of that, everything was very tidy and in its place. And I just want to show you something that happened very quickly. So I hope that's okay. And again, I think it's important to share our ongoing and continued testimonies. So you see right here, I have like two of everything. Everything is pretty symmetrical. And I have a little candle holder there and one there with like mosaic glass. Okay, and a candle that I got in a spiritual warfare kit. And it's white. And most people know that Christians or Catholics especially are supposed to use white-ish when possible beeswax candles, which all of these are. They're all beeswax. They smell great, this one especially. Now I'm showing you that because the other night, now it might get a little messy here or cluttery, you might think. This is mine and Sammy's Japanese mattress, because I think, again, sleeping on the floor is more than I deserve and it keeps me humble. And you see, here's just a few books that I keep by me, and I changed those ones out. And my chessboard, and under there is a lap desk with journals where I journal things. But for the most part, it's pretty neat. Like, I know where everything's at, right? So I woke up and there's where I sleep. Nothing there on the floor right now. And that night, again, everything was very tidy. And I woke up probably in the wee hours, like 3:30, 4 o'clock, maybe 5, or somewhere around there. Sam and I get up pretty early most days, and this candle, the white one, was over there, sitting by my pillow right there in that blue area, where on the carpet there. Now, is that a good message or a bad message? And usually I have these lit at night, but that's pretty much it with those lights up there. And so I thought that was obviously strange. I've not had any lost time. I had not been drinking or anything like that. But I had laid down to go to sleep. And that was right next to me when I got up several hours later. And I don't know how that happened. I sleep with my door locked because of the situation and past events for my safety. And I just wanted you guys to know that before I show you that book. Now, there will be disclaimers in the description area. I'm not a doctor. Nothing I speak about here is medical or legal advice. But we're going to take a look at that book in 1 second. I want to show you something over here. These are tinctures, you'll see. I've been taking Ormus and colloidal gold for better health all around, and some herbs in the evening, natural tinctures to help me sleep, and a couple like vitamin C for pain. And in my personal testimony, that has helped me. I'm not saying it will help you, but if you'd like me to talk more on that, I will. There's my favorite little map. Now I'm going to show you this book. I got it at a consignment shop. Again, they all seem to be magic around here. I pick up things that are unique and different, and oftentimes they apply some way, some shape or form to my personal testimony. I was diagnosed with a couple of things. Hashimoto's is a thyroid disease, and it affects like my energy level. And basically your thyroid is like the transmission of your body, so it keeps everything in check. Again, I'm not a doctor. None of this is medical advice. This is my personal testimony, and I don't consent to anyone else like twisting my words to say that I did give advice. However, I have been slowly going back to like holistic ways, I guess you would say. Not even going back, just learning about them. And for now, it's helped me a great deal. I also have fibromyalgia. Allegedly, I think it is something else, but I talk about that sometimes. Now, I'm going to actually move over here because I am in a lot of pain today. And I'm going to take you, this is going to be very casual. You can sit down over here with me as I show you a couple very interesting parts in this book. And I'm going to take a sip of my water. I also got a filtered water bottle. Again, I'm not super luxurious or anything. The money that I do have, I try to use as a tool and use it wisely or give to others when I can. There's a, what is it called? A charcoal filter in here. And I can put it right in a lake and drink out of it as it is. I don't have to wait for it to like, tabs to dissolve, though I do have those too. And it also has a handy dandy little compass on the top. So I really love it. I thought that was really cool. Excuse me as I take a sip of some water of life there. Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate that. In my past, I worked on the phones a lot, so that helps. But my mom was also a singer, and it's probably genetic. So I thought this was awesome. Let me show you the book. Now, obviously, it's very old. I'll give you a chance to take a look here at the title page. It says Great Disasters and Horrors in the World's History. In all ages, let's see, a graphic account of the notable calamities which have befallen mankind in all ages, both upon land and sea. The Louisville tornado. Now it gets into, it says embracing the Louisville tornado, floods in the south, Charleston earthquake, Johnson flood, storm on the coast of Samoa, noted shipwrecks, great floods in China, Holland, and Japan, and other notable disasters caused by storm, flood, and volcanic action. Now they get into describing how some of these things can be predicted from past cycles, which I would agree with. But the cycles are also upon mankind, because when we start transgressing natural law, and again, I don't believe in climate change per se. I think we should just take care of where we live. It just makes sense to me. I don't want to live in a filthy bedroom or house. So I think we should treat the rest of our world like that too. But I'm not lecturing you, right? The goal is to edify and encourage each other in these hard and dark changing times, and better learn how we can navigate the choppy waters. That is the end of this age, I believe. So it says, and the laws of the natural phenomenon that produce them, comprising thrilling tales of heroism, great destruction of towns, cities, homes, and lives, heart-rending scenes of agony, dreadful sufferings, miraculous escapes, daring adventures, etc., etc. And then it says, together with the noble responses of aid. Now, it is by an author named A.H. Godbey, A.M., author of Stanley in Africa, Light and Darkness, Missions and Missionary Heroes. Now, back then, the world was not just culturally Christian, but very Christian. The closer back you get to the root of things, the closer you see that Christ's ministry, whether you believe or don't believe, has greatly impacted the human civilization and the human journey. And I believe it has been for the better, but I don't want to see mankind go down this road again. And it might be too late now to put the brakes on. So I'm doing my best to offer a wide variety of information to try and help you, again, navigate these choppy waters a little bit better. I got the little girl here. Hang on. Sit down, little girl. Sit down with Mama. Go ahead. You can sit down. Hey, tiny thing. Sit down. Oh, there she goes. She's off. Okay, let's check it out. Oh, I just ripped that page. That's not good. Okay. I think books are made to be read, so I try, I take care of them, but I read them. So it says copyright 1890. So I just wanted to show you that, all right? Now I'm going to show you the table of contents, but then we're going to go to a very specific chapter, because the next live stream, probably tomorrow, because I'm also off then, will be about lightning, okay? And I don't want to give too much away. Lightning and plasma. So let's give you a quick look at the table of contents. So chapter 1 is Mists of the Winds. Chapter 2 focuses on constant wind. Chapter 3 is periodic winds, like cyclical. Chapter 4 is tornadoes and cyclones. 5 is the Louisville tornado, which is wild that they devoted a whole chapter to that one event. That should tell us something. Incidents of the tornado, other tornadoes, tropical cyclones, perils of the sea, life-saving measures, the Great Samoan Hurricane. In chapter 12, electric storms. That is where I would like to go. Now, I was going to save this and not do this immediately, but I started reading and I found something interesting that I think you should see. So let's take a look at, and again, these readings, I do my best to explain them, but you have to have a decent reading comprehension for some of these books. So I try to explain them the best I can. Anthony says it was very dangerous back then. It seems like it, and it seems like it is today as well. I believe personally, and like I said, anyone that's followed me from the main channel, which was much bigger than this one and it got better coverage or whatever, we talked about things that would happen at the end and how my personal testimony, for whatever reason, seems to ripple outward, and in some aspect of it affects the public. I believe this is God's way because I am hidden and kind of isolated. I believe it's God's way of warning me or showing me certain things that are going on that I'm not privy to out in the world, a bigger world. And so I try to relay those to you guys to help you. Now, recently, it's been very dry. Very, very, very dry. Even after it rains, there's still cracks in the earth right out in my yard. And the grass is not as green as it, could or should be. I ask for rain. Usually I get it when I ask, which doesn't make everybody happy, but we really need it. Now, I know people's bodies change. Yes, I've taken that into account, but I want to tell you, in summers, I'm usually an oily person because I have a bit of Mediterranean in my bloodline, but this summer has been very dry. And almost the second that I go to lay down, because we are on this Japanese mattress on the floor, I will work up, for whatever reason, a ton of static electricity. And then if I try to pet Sam or touch something or pick something up, you can actually see the shocks. They're actually like little flames, little fireworks. I think that's important. We are having droughts, and I'm going to cover that when I do a screen share live. Probably tomorrow. Let me grab a sip of my waters of life. Thank you for being here with me. I do appreciate it. It's becoming more wet in England. I would believe it. I would believe it in England because you guys do seem to get, your issue, I think, would be like flooding, right? So let's see what it says here. Byron's fire, mists of the lightning, causes of thunderstorms, strange freaks of the lightning, numerous fatalities, some curious cases, a lightning stroke of divine favor, thunder, peculiar incidents, lightning little to be feared, foolish precautions, a dysentery conductor wanted. That's interesting. St. Elmo's fire, electric halos. Now, we are seeing that happen. That's what those are called. Now, when people say, you know, they were showing that red rainbow on TikTok. I'm sorry, my hands are a mess right now because of the work I do. It's pretty messy and gross. But anyways, yeah, I'm embarrassed to show you. Electric halos, that's when you see, and I've taken videos of this. I have shorts of this. I used to have them posted. I don't know if they're on this channel. That's when you look up in the sky and you see like the circle around the sun, or if the sun is setting, you see like a half circle. Guys, that is always there. Almost always. We can't always see it. It is the reflection of the sun bouncing off of the firmament we are enclosed in, okay? And it gives these electric halos off. So the more we know what's actually quote unquote normal for the weather, the better we're able to see these cyclical things that occur and determine, you know, the lowest loss of life and you know, things like crops. Now, sadly, I have to say this, and I think it's a given. Most people should know this, but if you are in a lightning storm or a plasma storm, or if MCO has any reality or truth in our reality here, remember, rubber grounds you. That's why people, when there's a storm, they used to go into their cars, because rubber grounds you. Even if you have like an umbrella in your hand, which can be a conductor, right, for the lightning. If you have on rubber-coated shoes. Now, here's the problem, is they're making less and less shoes made of rubber. I have had a heck of a time finding any shoes with soles that have rubber. However, my favorite old school favorites, Converse and Adidas, have rubber. I don't want to get into an argument right now about brands being satanic. I'm trying to offer you tips here. They also make those rubber bracelets like the Lance Armstrong or What Would Jesus Do? Those are good to wear as well. I'm more worried about falling trees in a lightning storm. Well, the problem is it's so dry. When that lightning hits, it catches things on fire that are dry. You want to make sure, again, you don't know where you'll be when something like this occurs, and that's why I try to give tips like the rubber. Try and get shoes that have rubber tread on them still. That will protect you and ground you, so that no matter where you're at or what you're doing, if you're out at the job, if you're getting something to eat and something goes haywire as far as lightning storms, you'll be covered, because again, rubber is a grounding material. So we're going to go to that page 220. Peacocks are symbolic of resurrection, is why I have this. I love this little bookmark. Little quote from Emily Dickinson. I'm trying to bring a little culture to YouTube, and I try to share channels sometimes that are like that as well, because it's much needed. It is very disappointing being back out in the public and seeing how much people have degraded or forgotten just about basic hygiene and basic manners and courtesies with each other. I am very disillusioned right now, but I still have hope, of course, because we know pretty much the beginning from the end, and we know how things are going to turn out for the most part. So it starts on this page. The artwork is just amazing. I do ink, black and white ink when I actually draw. This says this is the Lys Fjord. The Lys Fjord. How pretty. You are sensitive. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, and I don't know how you mean that. I'm sorry. I don't know if I should say thank you for the compliment, or I have a soft heart. That's the one thing that I do have. Considering my past and how I did fall, and I have, you know, transgressed, and none here are innocent. That's one thing that I've always maintained throughout my whole life, is that most of the things I've said and done, even when others think I'm harsh, is from a place of love. I don't correct certain things because I think that I'm righteous. Not at all. It's not that at all. It's the opposite. It's that I've been through so much and I've seen so much that I don't want other people to have to learn the way I did. Don't be as hard-headed as I was. let it be enough for people like me who share our cautionary testimonies for you to stay on the straight and narrow. I don't know what that was. Where'd the little girl go, Sam? Is she under blankie? Girl, are you there? She likes to hide under the blanket when I get up. There she is. Sometimes I'll almost step on her. So these older books are amazingly inspirational, and just a good song or a good poem should make your heart ache, right? It just should. And that's one thing I am blessed. God gave me a really good heart. And this is why people like reading biographies. I don't know what that means. Biographies are usually about people's lives. It says, electric storms, far along from peak to peak, the rattling crags among leaps the live thunder. Not from one lone cloud, but every mountain now hath found a tongue. And Jura answers through her misty shroud back to the joyous Alps, who call to her aloud. And this is in the night, most gracious night. Thou went not sent for slumber. Let me be a sharer in thy fierce and far delight, a portion of the tempest and of thee. How the lit lake shines, a phosphoric sea, and the big rain comes dancing to the earth. And now again 'tis black, and now the glee of the loud hills shakes with its mountains' mirth, as if they did rejoice over a young earthquake's birth. This is very prophetic. It actually goes along with some things that are mentioned in scripture. Phosphoric sea is key here. We're going to continue a little bit because I want you to see something. Who has not quailed before the storm? Few indeed are they whose spirits kindle with the flesh of the lightning and joy in the roar of the thunder that fills the heavens like the voice of many waters. Bold is the heart that in such scenes can mount with a Byron and say to the Avernian gloom that wraps the frightened world, let me be a portion of the tempest and of thee. Oh, reading biographies to learn from others' mistakes. Good point. Very good point, yeah. Only that fiery, untamable spirit, fearless of man or demon, dare so approach the king of the storm, or put the main of ocean in his wrath. 1,000 plaudits has he won, but not a follower, for when the lightning flames and roars, the cheering rabble slink away in fear, nor dare to emulate that genius, strange and wild as chaos itself. Now, chaos is key. I showed you that picture, so let's turn. Now I'm going to try and read and show you guys so you can read along or take screenshots if you'd like. The fear of the tempest. Tempest is an older word, another more eloquent word for storm. So the fear of the storm, tempest, belongs to every age. The ancient Greeks, from whom the Romans borrowed and modified the myth, told how, oh gosh, let me not butcher this, Hephaestus toiled in his volcanic forge to form the bolts of Zeus, great father of gods and men. Now, if you know anything about forging swords or forging metal, you have to put it in extreme heat, much like welding today is the forging of old. Most young teens, most millennials who are into the occult at some time show an interest in this forging of metals. Now, because there are certain, again, alchemical elemental mixtures that can produce certain desired or undesired results, as it may be. But we're getting to the part that I wanted to show you specifically. So that's interesting. So they're telling us that inside volcanoes is where these events occur, where they forge lightning for the prince of the air, the prince of Persia. He fell from heaven like a bolt of lightning. Satan, right? The deceiver. Okay. I was going to mention something else, but now I forget. Hopefully it'll come back. Okay, these flaming weapons. Oh, in the other book that we read, I don't have it right in front of me now, the Fibonacci code books that I talked about at length, about how they wouldn't even send me the one to my address. I had to go to a different vendor online to get it sent to my address. It tells us about how vampiric hybrid / Nephilim live in the caldera in Yellowstone. So, true or false, it's interesting that all these stories are kind of telling us a lot of the same information. These flaming weapons could none oppose, by them rebellious giants were overturned. So again, they're telling us a secret here. There's a gem here that we have to dig out. So by them rebellious giants were overturned. Okay, so rebellious giants are who? The Nephilim from Genesis. Everyone knew about this back in the day, guys. Everyone. They've hidden it completely after World War II. And I'd be willing to bet that some of these quote-unquote wars are battles with the lineage of some of these bloodlines. I think they're still here, and they've always been here. Well, not always, but they were here then, and they're here now, just like us. Rebellious giants were overturned. What were they overturned by? Very specific metals that are forged in the volcanoes. I believe this is why also you'll see Bigfoot sightings attached to UFO sightings. I believe that they basically, quote unquote, can control the Nephilim. The fallen angels can control them because they are above them in the hierarchy, or at least they've been made to believe that. And this is why I don't think every giant is a wicked cannibal. I do believe that there might be salvation for certain people who have mixed blood, because there's a lot of us here at this point that are like that, and it is to no great desire or consent of our own. So let's continue, because I want to show you this part. Okay, so, and the bold Goth, rugged and vigorous, heard the voice of the war god Thor shout to him, "Mine eyes are the lightning, the wheels of my chariot roll in the thunder." So Thor is the Greek rendition of Lucifer in a way. Allegedly, there is a myth, whatever you want to take this as, that Thor, or the being that is equivalent to Thor, took his hammer. Actually, no, I don't think Thor would be equivalent to Lucifer. That would be, are Loki and Thor in the same universe? Loki is a version of Lucifer, I know for certain. But Thor actually might be a version of Saint Michael in a way, because here's the story. It is alleged that Thor is the one who broke through the firmament to flood the earth on God's command. And he did that in the Milky Way. The Milky Way is actually an old rift in the firmament, and after the Great Flood, they fixed it. Thought Thor was a Viking god. Again, a lot of this stuff is misappropriated, but this is a book from 1890. So, are you going to go with Hollywood or a book closer to its source? I'm born on Thursday. Thursday. That's interesting. Interesting. Oh, I lost you. I probably offended you. I'm just giving my honest opinion. I don't know. We got to keep reading to find out for sure, right? Let's not speculate. Let's continue. The Arabs saw the wild combat of genii? Maybe that's a jinn, whom the great Solomon had not subdued. Oh, so that's talking about a demon that even Solomon could not get under control, which again would probably be Lucifer. Woe to the luckless wight who should arouse their ill will. The Arabian Nights tell us of a contest between one of these spirits of fire and a beautiful princess versed in magic. The swarthy Moor beheld the hand of God waving on his angels to contest with the hosts of evil, and the same idea of wild combat in the spirit world is found in the myths of the Caribs and Lapps. In the Hindu cosmology, now note how interesting this is. In this book from 1890, Hindu is spelled differently than it is today. Today it is Hindu, but here it looks more like almost voodoo, right? The ending anyways. So that's interesting as well. Pay attention to spelling differences because etymology is key in this journey. If you can't figure out what's being said, you're not able to pull the knowledge away. I believe this is a time before censorship. 1912, 1913, around the quote-unquote Spanish flu, that's when the first censorship started and why our generation was basically raised in ignorance and hasn't been told the truth about anything because they changed everything. And I'd be willing to bet our grandparents were put into a state of fear over not telling us, over keeping these secrets. But I believe Watergate was telling us something big. I believe Americans have been under surveillance in their own homes since World War II. And take that as you will. Excuse me, I had to grab some water there. Okay, so where were we? In the Hindu cosmology, the lightning and storm are the chief weapons of... That's Shiva, guys, but it's spelled differently. In this 1890 book, it's spelled with an I, no H. So again, they knew all this stuff back then, and they knew it was coming as well. Yeah, cars are a big one. They've always been listening to you. In the Hindu cosmology, so we have Hindu spelled differently. The lightning and storm are the chief weapons of whom? Shiva the Destroyer, who will one day blot the world out of existence. They knew back then. They knew how to predict these things. They knew when the last events occurred, because it was right. This book was written because of great cataclysms that occurred. Look at the amazing artwork. Because of the cataclysms that occurred on the earth in the late 1890s. And that's when our generations were miseducated and everything was under very strict censorship. We are told America won the war, but I don't know about that either. So let's continue. Now they're telling us, what is this telling us? Okay, that Shiva is what? Has the Shiva weapons of destruction are lightning and storms. What are we seeing? Wildfires everywhere. Why are they being caused in our national parks? Because A, there is a very dry situation in the air. There is not enough rain. I believe we will soon go into a dire drought, and I'll get to that probably in another video. I would stock up on water. I would fill old pop bottles to conserve so you're not using a bunch of plastic or buying things. Fill up old pop bottles and milk jugs or whatever it is you use with clean water. Now you can add either 2 or 3 drops of bleach. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a legal expert of any kind. I'm offering tips and things that have come to be important and have impressed themselves upon me. And yes, I believe that I talk to God and God talks back. And I believe we're all able to do that. I don't think it's any crazy or mystical. I mean, it is rather mystical, but I don't think it's any insane. I don't believe it's insanity. You're a good reader. I love to read. I'm trying to use my gift to do what I can for the kingdom of God, which is humanity is God's kingdom. The animal kingdom is God's kingdom. The plant kingdom is the Most High's kingdom. Our creator, maker, Father. And yes, I do believe we have a mother. I'm not getting into that with people right now. We have bigger fish to fry, and we have a common enemy, and that is the darkness that's coming. So we are seeing on TikTok a lot of red skies, a lot of lightning skies. I told you about the dream I had when all this started. One of the dreams about people being on rooftops showing us the red skies. Now, I think it's a dream. I could have swore I saw it on the news. But again, censorship started on YouTube and in America. It was restricted again, I believe, around 2017, 2018. So, take that again as you will. I'm just trying to warn people and help out the best I can with the little bit I'm able to tell, to offer and bring to the table, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So we know that droughts are starting now, and we know that we've seen a lot of lightning storms in the sky. So they're saying that the weapons of Shiva are these lightning. Now, who would be the equivalent of Shiva? I'm going to tell you right now, Uriel, the archangel, has discs of fire that are said to, obviously he's at God's command, and when God tells him to bring destruction, he was the one who brought it to Sodom and Gomorrah, right? My car just listened to you and the SOS light came on. Oh, that's funny. I don't know if I believe you, but that's funny. So again, we are seeing these things happen, and you're seeing that in each culture, in each language, there are just different names being used, but they are paralleled, and they are the same quote unquote individualized being, if you will. Frequency has a lot to do with this. They know that. This is why we are told gemstones are bad and evil. When God himself told Aaron to put it on his temple vest, it is to help you with radiation, as is linen. Again, I'm not a legal expert. I will start turning on permission for people to chop up my videos if they want and circulate and spread the word on some of this. Okay? So let's continue. Now they know, it said Shiva the Destroyer will one day blot the earth out of existence. Oh, there's my highlighter. I'm sorry. I'm a really big geek. And somebody's probably going to say, why are you going to take this antique book and mark it up? Because things that are helpful are meant to be used and not just set on a table somewhere. Okay, so I want to make sure that I can come back to this when I'm easier when I want to. Okay, now it says, only in the red man's tales, which are the Native American Indians, only in the red man's tales do we find the idea of the Christian world of one great spirit who rules all nature. Let me be clear, even in Christianity, there's a hierarchy, all right? And I believe that Archangel Michael, Raphael, Uriel, and Gabriel are the archangels of the air, the north, south, east, and west. And when they bring destruction, it is at the behest of the Most High God, just like with Sodom and Gomorrah. Because the earth needs cleansed when too much transgression and too much literal murder and blood have spoiled or corrupted the literal land that does something to that area. You just like when people go paranormal ghost hunting, you can feel it in the air when a certain area or building has been desecrated. And I think that some of the Catholic churches in my area, I believe that has happened here. If you can find or create consecrated ground at this point, that is key. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to listen to me. I'm just trying to do my part. So that's not actually true. Only in the Christian world do we find the idea of one great spirit who rules all nature. God has a hierarchy. Each of his angels has a direction, and each of his angels has a power and a principality, okay? The power, I believe, is another word for the angel. And the principality is the area in which they can act, their domain, okay? And through which medium, like discs of fire for Uriel, St. Michael has a sword, right? Almost kind of like Thor. But let's continue. In the Persian mythology, lightning and gloom represent the contest between the forces of Ahriman, Prince of Evil, and Ormuzd, the great creator and preserver of good. All right, here if you want to read along. I'm trying, it's hard for me to like read from the screen, so I'm trying to do both. And among the old Etruscans, from whom the Romans borrowed many rites and ceremonies, and they got them from who? The Phoenicians. And the Phoenicians were allegedly the inhabitants of Atlantis. And if you look at the map of Atlantis, that ties into what we've been talking about with Hecate and the mazes and labyrinths. It actually looks like a maze, excuse me, but that keeps it fortified from invaders, easier to protect, and you don't have any corners. If it's round, you really don't have a back end to quote unquote watch, right? There's no back door. So it makes defense very easy too. And it's also more conducive to the human body and frequencies. You can find out more about that if you study Feng Shui. And I know people will say, well, these are anti-Christian practices. These are different cultural practices from different nations and nationalities. There's a difference. We can't tell every convert, we can't force people what to do and say, well, you can be Catholic or Christian, but you can't still have your language and your culture. They're two different things, and we need to understand that. Okay, so let's continue. And among the old, okay, we read that. So we know from the Romans borrowed many rites and ceremonies. The lightning was one of the chief objects in their system of augury and divination. So they were using lightning for divination. And what do they call it when you try to harness the power of lightning? They say you need a what? A divining rod, right? And I believe that that has a lot to do with Moses' staff. But again, that's a discussion for a different day. I wish I still had that video I did on the other channel. A favorable flash of lightning outweighed all portents of evil. The thunder was the voice of the gods communicating their will to men. And so the ancients were content to pass the mystery by unsolved. Now and then, a Pliny and Seneca and Aristotle ventured a timid speculation upon the origin cause of lightning. But as electricity was an unknown force to them, their conjectures were as wild as the chimerical tales of Cimmerian darkness in ultra-Scythian realms, or of the utopia haven of bliss, where the Hyperboreans dwelt. But one of their various conjectures is worthy of note as it contains an element of truth. It was that the lightning was produced by mutual friction or violent concussion of the clouds. This is important. How do you create static electricity? Well, you take your shoes off, you leave your socks on, and you rub your feet as fast as you can back and forth on the carpet. And then the next thing you touch should create that electrical spark. That is how electricity is created. It's also why it should be free. Have to leave. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much for being here and spending some of your morning with me. I appreciate that. I hope we see you again. God bless and have a great day. So that tells us here that you can create lightning, and they know how it's created, right? And we know this, like it's not a big deal. I'm telling you now, for whatever reason, things are very, very dry, and I'm an oily person. And I can't walk across the carpet without producing literal sparks. Something is up. You would do well to invest in rubber-soled bottomed shoes. They're very hard to find now, but I know Adidas and Converse for sure have rubber-soled rubber soles, as does Timberland, because I was just looking at Timberland's websites yesterday. So I know they all have rubber as well. Don't forget, rubber is a grounding source and will protect you from electricity and things like that. Okay, so where were we? Since electricity has been recognized as the agent in the phenomena of thunderstorms, inquiry as to whether it is a cause or a result of the formation of clouds has produced evidence in favor of the latter fact, though the clouds differently charged have mutual attraction for each other. Basically, it's saying they act as magnets, right? For rapid motion of gases may be made to generate electricity. Again, if we can generate it with just our socks and our feet, it should definitely be free. A natural sequence would be that the thunderstorms are most violent where clouds are heaviest. Hence, thunderstorms are naturally most frequent and violent in the tropics, where the greater heat produce immense masses of vapor, okay, and are unknown in the polar world where imperative, okay, it's missing an I. Imperative dryness of the atmosphere is unfavorable. The unusual amount of electricity in dense clouds in rapid motion is shown by the tremendous electrical displays attendant upon tornadoes and cyclones. Another illustration of lightning resulting from cloud agency rather than controlling them may be found in the cloudless Sahara, where evidence of electricity are sometimes to be observed in the time of the Khamsin, while the thunderstorm is unknown. One notable exception to the rule that thunderstorms are violent and frequent in all tropic regions is to be found in Peru, with its cloudless skies and eternal sun, where a rainfall or a thunderstorm would be as great a curiosity as a palm tree at the North Pole. Now, for whatever reason, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in Peru. That is where, what's that guy's name that talks about the giants, and him and Steve are always going to different places, or at least he was before CV started. I always forget his name because I'm always a little leery of celebrity. Anyway, this is where they all go. I think Machu Picchu or something is in Peru. Don't quote me on that. I could be remembering that wrong. But a lot of people want to visit there because of the ancient sites that are there. So that's intriguing. It says it's cloudless skies, right? It says they don't really have storms there. At least they didn't back in 1890. The mere fact, oh look, another beautiful picture. These are usually engravings, and the black and white is just stunning. Ideal subterranean storm. And look at that. That's an interesting little entrance here. It looks like a cave. Huh. More underground tunnels, too. It just never ends. Okay, where were we? Knowing the character of this mystery power, we may not enter upon a lengthy discussion of the changes, chemical, physical, and otherwise, that may be produced by it. Okay? Within the scope of this work, only its rank as an agent of destruction and a historical factor may be considered. So they're discussing here the possibility of being able to predict electrical lightning storms, okay? So just hang in there with me. Again, I think this is going to come to play with these red skies and very dry, parched drought conditions we are seeing in some areas. Now, again, for your geographical area, it's best to get accustomed to whatever natural disasters could plague your area, okay? I think, though, this lightning issue is going to be across the board because what does lightning cause when conditions are dry? It causes fire, and we are told there would not be a flood next time, that things would be cleansed, the face of the earth would be cleansed through fire. Now, I also believe that's spiritual, as in the Holy Spirit fire falling upon all of mankind. So let's continue. Within the scope of this work, only its rank as an agent of destruction and a historical factor may be considered. Is electricity to be greatly feared, to be put on par with flood, hurricane, and earthquake? Has it ever figured in the history of nations sufficiently to directly affect their destinies? So again, the author here is discussing the possibilities of predicting lightning storms, all right? The first and most familiar aspect of its power is the thunderstorm, which needs not a word of description. It results merely from the discharges passing between two bodies oppositely charged. Again, it's magnetic. Magnetism, frequency, and natural disasters. These are all things right now to pay attention to what's going on around you. So there is one comparatively rare form of lightning in which it appears as a globe of fire slowly descending, with wayward and unexpected dashes to the side, sometimes coming down a chimney and playing about the floor like a kitten, much to the discomfiture of the inmates, till it at length explodes with immense force, hurling zigzag lightnings all about. Does that sound like it could possibly be Uriel's discs of fire, the Archangel Uriel? This peculiar freak, several times observed, is as yet unexplained. The lightning seems throughout most civilized nations to be the most dreaded of all natural agencies. That's interesting. Because it can cause so many different things to go wrong at the same time, I would imagine. And it's more, lightning is more unpredictable. than droughts and tornadoes and hurricanes. I mean, we have tornado and hurricane seasons, right? So lightning would be a little more difficult to predict. Unless you know, again, the outside circumstances that affect it. Sam, quit kicking mommy. Sorry. Okay, so where were we? Thunderstorms, yes, they need no. Okay. The lightning seems throughout most civilized nations to be the most dreaded of all natural agencies, if we may judge from the many precautions taken against it, and in truth it is a terrific power, cleaving the hardest rocks, rending the mighty oak, and fusing the most refractory substances. Darting into the soil, it frequently forms tubes of vitreous appearance by fusing the earth and stones as it passes. So again, you have this intense heat, right? And if lightning, that's how you make glass, is lightning and sand can create glass, okay? And there are people who go out during lightning storms and put divining rods into the sand to specifically make unique glass artifacts and then sell them. That was actually in a romance movie, a rom-com years ago with Renee Witherspoon. That's my favorite episode on Mr. Rogers to this day, too, is when they went to the glass blowing factory. Lay down, Sam Cinema, almost done. So it says, the writer has seen masses of straw fused in the same way. That's wild. And when we remember that French servants have, with the most powerful batteries, been able to produce only an inch in length and 1/15 of an inch in diameter by passing shocks through powdered glass, we may well stand in awe at the terrible power that produces tubes 30 feet long and 4 inches in diameter, and the far more obstinate feldspar and quartz. So it's saying that lightning and quartz, if you get lightning on top of like the quartz, the mountains and things that are made of quartz in the national parks, quartz is really big in Arkansas. My Ormus is partly made with quartz dust. And so quartz is kind of like, I have a theory on it I don't want to get into now, but it's key too. So where were we? It says there are numerous cases of death by lightning, but the instances in which more than one person has been killed by a flash are comparatively rare. So it says, the freaks played far outdo those of the wind and puzzled the wisest. Now it's giving us a date when something occurred. March 20th, 1784, about 400 people were assembled in the theater at Mantua when lightning struck the building and killed 2 persons, injuring 10. But many who were not hurt found the bolt had melted their the watch keys, earrings, and split diamonds they were wearing. How such feats could be performed without in the least harming the possessors is a mystery. Well, maybe if you already have a light body inside of you, the lightning can do you no harm, right? If you are sealed, perhaps the one who, the power who is over the principality of lightning, perhaps you're able to rebuke him by being sealed through what? By having the seal of God and not the seal of the other one. Let's continue. June 11th, 1819. And see, we have more documentation here. Real history, guys. Closer to the source. That's what you want to do. If you want the truth, you got to go back to the source, which means go back as close as you can to the event that you're trying to find out about. June 11th, 1819. Now, we just had 2019 not too long ago, right? So if we can see if certain things happened in 1819 that happened in 2019, again, you can see how cyclical these things are or are not, right? Do your proper research and due diligence. Don't just believe things you see and hear. June 11th, 1819, while a large assembly were attending divine services in the church of Château Neuf-les-Montiers in France, lightning struck the building, killing 9 persons and wounding 82. That's interesting because France is where the mother church started, and you're seeing its decline again now, and it has been kind of heading towards being a non-moral, low moral value for some time now. So it says in 1715, the lightning fell. And again, they're going back 100 years. They were just telling us about 1819. Now we're going back to 1715, which is real close to the exact 100-year mark, much like the Spanish flu. Much like our recent lockdowns mimic what happened with the Spanish flu. In 1716, the lightning fell into the abbey of, what does that say? Normutiers near Tours, that's France again, and killed 22 horses, but did no farther harm to the 150 monks at supper than to turn over their 150 bottles of wine. I wonder if someone was trying to tell them something. Were they a little too indulgent in their wine drinking at that monastery? But none of the monks were hurt, not a one. That's interesting, no? In 1855, lightning struck a flock of sheep in France. Oh, geez. Killing 78 of them and 2 dogs and sparing the old shepherdess. Again, the human was spared. A French author relates the case of a priest who was killed by lightning, while the horse on which he rode was unhurt and quietly continued homeward with the stiffened corpse. Kind of makes you wonder if that was a priest who was on the up and up, or if he had things in his closet that were hidden. A somewhat similar case has come within the knowledge of the writer, meaning the author is telling of a personal secondhand story relating to his own, somebody talking to him. A man on horseback being killed and the saddle perforated, yet the horse remained apparently unhurt. I remember another instance of a man who was struck and escaped unharmed, but one of his boots was torn to shreds and some of the hobnails melted, and I myself have been struck upon the foot with no other result than a peculiar numbness lasting nearly half an hour. It's wild. In many instances, a livid streak is the only mark left upon the dead body, and again, it may be torn almost to atoms, meaning torn apart, right? Rendered, shredded. While in some cases, not the slightest trace is perceptible. The greater number fall in the first class. In 1838, some cattle were killed by lightning near, what is that? Oh gosh, I'm not great with. Nijmegen in Holland. Their bones were shattered to 1,000 fragments as though by nitroglycerine, while externally there was no particular token visible. Some sheep killed in Bohemia in 1718 were similarly served. The fragments of bone were driven so thoroughly throughout the flesh that the carcasses were unfit for food, meaning that inside their little bodies that their bones exploded. That's wild. In 1869, the mayor of Pradette, France, was killed by lightning, and all his clothes, with the exception of a shoe. Boy, that's a little Masonic symbology there, isn't it? Wow. So everything but a shoe were torn from the body. August 11th, 1855, a man was struck by lightning on a road near Villeroy and entirely divested of his raiment, his clothes. Only a few remnants which could afterwards be found. That is wild. 10 minutes after the stroke, he was restored to consciousness, complained of the cold, and asked how he came to be without any clothing. No doubt he would have more easily consoled himself for the loss of his apparel had he known of the case reported by Sestier of a man whose whole right side was burnt, as if he had been held for some time over a fire pan. Oh, that's terrible. While his shirt, his drawers, and the rest of his dress bore no marks whatsoever of combustion. Sometimes the clothing is found unstitched. Again it is burnt, and again in some mysterious manner seems to be annihilated. Professor Tyndall relates his sensations upon having a powerful electric discharge pass through him. Life was absolutely blotted out for a very few sensible interval, without a trace of pain. Oh, that's good. In a second or so, consciousness returns. Oh, they're noting something here. The intellectual consciousness of my position was restored with singular rapidity, but not so the optical consciousness. Meaning he couldn't see. Optical is your eyes, right? The appearance which my body presented to myself was that a number of separate pieces, the arms, for example, were detached from the trunk and suspended in the air. In fact, memory and the power of reasoning appeared to be complete long before the optic nerve was restored to healthy action, meaning all of his internal thought processes and such, like his mental acuity came back, his cognition came back before the physical senses of his eyes, meaning for a time it rendered him blind. That's wild, but I can see that happening. And there can be not a doubt that to a person struck dead by lightning, the passage from life to death occurs without consciousness being in the least degree implicated. It is an abrupt stoppage of sensation, unaccompanied by a pang. There is another class of peculiar freaks performed by this subtle force, with the following instances illustrated. Let's see what we got here next. Professor Purdy tells of a thunderstorm in Switzerland when the lightning sprang from a pear tree upon the veranda of a house, the porch, where it killed a boy and wounded his mother. The pear tree and the house were burned down. On the arm of the wounded woman, a remarkably elegant impression of twigs and leaves, like a photographic copy of part of the pear tree, was found. So, for all intents and purposes, she was tattooed by the lightning and the presence of a stick or some branches that were stuck to her arm. That is wild. There are several cases noted of persons sitting near windows when lightning flashing nearby has produced an exact likeness of the person, as though engraved on the glass. Okay, so we're getting the feeling that it's basically nature's photography as well. It is taking images of these people, right? Like a camera, guys. We'll get it back into mirrorless cameras and mirrored cameras shortly as well. So it says there are several cases noted a person. Yes, okay, we read that. In 1825, the lightning fell upon the brigantine El Bion Cervo, which lay at anchor in the Bay of Amaro at the mouth of the Adriatic Sea. The superstitious Ionian sailors generally fasten a horseshoe to the foremasts of their ships, probably fancying that this simple means affords them protection against the evil intentions of wizards and witches. Now, he's being purposely sarcastic there because he knew how superstitious people were of this era. They didn't understand science, but we can understand that science is also the natural expression of God and his hierarchy of beings who carry out his commands. He's like he's got an army below him, but not an army of destruction, rather an army of beings to kind of carry out the background simulation here, right? That part that could be simulated in the background. Okay, so where were we? Oh, there it is. So this is funny because doing that with a horseshoe, all they're going to do, again, that's going to act as a divining rod and it's going to create lightning. So it says, of course, the Bion Cervo was not without its horseshoe. Antonio Teodoro of Scarpanato was found sitting near the mast when it was struck by lightning. He was killed at once. No marks of combustion were found on his body, nor were his clothes torn, but on his back was found the distinct impression of a horseshoe of the same size as that which was nailed to the mast. Okay, so it's now visualize this in your mind's eye. It's as if the horseshoe being on the mast up high
The lightning struck it because it acted as a conductor. And once it struck the horseshoe, it traveled downward. And the first thing, living organism that it encountered was this man. And even though the horseshoe itself might not have fallen down, again, we have a superimposition on human skin, on flesh, being created by lightning and the object that acts as the divining rod. So if I put a horseshoe outside and I stand below it, or let me give a different example. Benjamin Franklin, if he actually had a key on a kite, right? If that is how he figured out electricity, it stands to reason that he could have had a superimposition or a quote unquote tattoo, an impression of a key found on his body after that event occurred. But again, don't go so far as to count on things like that. Rubber acts as a grounding material. It's important that you remember that. Because we have a lot of electricity, we have a lot of devices that we touch, and every one of them could be a divining rod for electricity. And we know that Satan fell from the heavens, Lucifer fell from the heavens as if a bolt of lightning. And so the bolt of lightning is his symbology. This is why you see people like David Bowie had the lightning bolt over his eye. Do these people actually know that they're paying tribute? I believe some of them do. I believe a lot of them don't. Even the people that I work with, I don't think they know why I irritate them specifically. I don't even know if they can put a name to it. And so, I don't blame them. They know not what they don't know what's going on. They just have no concept of a spiritual war, most of them. And the ones who do should really be doing more to teach their peers, or to at least try and steer their peers in the right direction. So in the records of the Academy of Science, we find that the Signora Moroso, a lady of Lugano, who sat near a window during a thunderstorm, received a shock which did her no further injury, but a flower which stood in passage of the electrical fluid was distinctly pictured on her thigh. So yes, basically these people's flesh is being tattooed, for lack of a better word, through lightning and whatever conductor, the divining rod, for that lightning strike. So again, we have something else on humans. That's just wild to me. Lightning is one of the most useful purifiers of the atmosphere. This is why I believe, again, the earth needs cleansed every now and again, especially when there are great injustices that occur. It leaves an indelible mark on the land. Native American Indians know this. They know that certain events are cyclical because people, for whatever reason, are still at odds with their own self, with God, and with each other. I believe that the Hopi are on at least the right track in saying we should be living more natural. However, I do believe there are dangers out there right in front of us. They're hiding in plain sight, but they're using a lot of tricks with the camera lenses, so you can't pick up on it unless you're someone like me who looks for certain telltale signs. Lightning is one of the most useful purifiers. Yes, fire is. There can be no doubt that large quantities of noxious exhalations are destroyed by electrical discharges. Its beneficial effects in this respect have been long noted. Both how do you pronounce his name? Hippocrates and Galenos remark that the water which falls during a thunderstorm is more healthy to drink. Again, this is has a lot to do with how you charge gemstones, and it has to do with the making of ormus, which some people call manna, and I talk about periodically. It is white gold that you ingest, pretty much, but that's not this video. Okay, so where? And Plutarch mentions that the rain from a thundercloud is considered as more favorable to vegetation and communicates to plants a particular flavor. There are also on record a number of instances in which persons long in poor health, on receiving light shocks, and they do have this now, light therapy, have greatly improved in health and appearances. Guys, this is the reason for the LEDs. They're not healthy for us. They are not healthy for plants. I would urge you to get rid of all LEDs, especially the blue lights. I did a video on that, and I can share it on the community page. I was going to share it last night, but I shared a different one. It talks about the 6.66 frequency of LED and why that's probably bad for humans. But having just told you about it. If you're wise enough, you could figure it out. Okay, so where were we? Similar results have been noticed in plant life. Doubtless such cases as these gave rise to the belief of the ancients that to be struck by lightning was to be favored by the gods. This opinion was especially noted in the case, oh boy, another one, Hippocrates. Okay, so Mithridates, slightly wounded in the forehead by lightning when a child, he escaped unhurt later in life when his sword was totally destroyed. These facts caused him to be held in superstitious fear by the Romans. And Quintus Julius Ebernus became consul BC mainly because of a similar mark of divine favor. I had someone tell me that because that's one of the things I get is when I ask for rain or a storm, oftentimes I'll get it. If I have a bad day and I cry, sometimes it will start raining, sometimes it will rain on me. I think everybody can communicate with the creator maker, and he will communicate back in ways that we best understand. So the way God talks to you, internally and externally, is not probably in the same way in which he speaks to me. But I promise you that the one who made you wants to know you and wants you to know him. So yeah, I would encourage you at this time to get to know the one that made you. Okay, so where were we? Those who were killed by a flash were believed to be not subject to decay and were robed in white and buried where they fell. So also those tombs lightning struck were peculiarly honored of heaven. Lord Byron alludes to this in his stanza upon the bust of Ariosto on the poet's tomb at Ferrara, which had been struck by lightning. That's wild. Oh, my tummy's growling. Excuse me. The lightning rent from Ariosto's bust. The iron crown of laurels mimicked leaves, nor was the ominous element unjust. For the true laurel wreath which glory weaves is of the tree no bolt of thunder cleaves. And the false semblance but disgraced his brow. Yet still if fondly superstition grieves, know that the lightning sanctifies below whatever it strikes. Your head is doubly sacred now. So they're saying that it's an honor to be struck by lightning. The identification of electricity with lightning is a comparatively recent occurrence. Yep, the story of Benjamin Franklin, patron saint of the devout lightning rod agent, oh my gosh, is too familiar to require repetition, yet the idea was first broadened in the latter part of the 17th century by two students of the new force more than 50 years before Franklin's experiments. Are they going to mention Tesla? Thunder clouds usually float from 2,000 to 5,000 feet from the earth, but there is one case on record of two priests. Can you guys see that if you want to read along? Two priests being killed by the lightning from a cloud only 30 yards from the ground, while another thunderstorm is noted as having occurred 18,000 feet from the earth. As sound travels about 1,090 feet per second, anyone may ascertain the distance of a flash by noticing the time that elapses are the thunder before the thunder is heard. All existing records fail to tell of thunder heard more than 4 miles, while the cannonading at Paris in 1871 could be heard 105 miles, and Waterloo could be heard 150 miles. Wow. That's wild. The action of lightning is instantaneous, and when nearby, the report is at first a single sharp crack, but it is always followed by a long rolling so characteristic that every name given the thunder is a measure endeavors to imitate it. The reason of the continued roll from a single flash is simple, and is to be found in the fact that a flash usually travels several miles, and as sound travels, as stated above, the sounds generated at different distances come to the ear in rapid succession, resulting in a continuous roar. So basically what they're explaining there is that oh geez, hold on. a continuous roar. Okay, so it's saying that if thunder comes like boom, 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 you're going to hear it wherever the listener or the observer is. You're going to hear it almost all as one, because it's one right after another. So it's going to sound like continuous roaring, which, you know, some bad thunderstorms can sound that way. It says the action of lightning is instantaneous, and when nearby, the report is at first a single sharp crack, but it is always followed by a long rolling so characteristic that every name given the thunder in a measure endeavors to imitate it. The reason of the continued roll from a single flash is simple, and is to be found in the fact that a flash usually travels several miles, and as sound travels, as stated above, the sounds generated at different distances come to the ear in rapid succession, resulting in a continuous roar. As the flash is due merely to the attraction between two bodies charged with opposite kinds of electricity, the discharge may pass either up or down. Cases are on record of a person on a mountainside being killed by lightning from a cloud below them. That's interesting. And of people on the ground killed by lightning dashing from them toward the sky. From the ground up. That's when you see lightning travel from the ground up, is what they're explaining there. So there are different kinds of lightning, and it can come from above and below. Among the more notable fatalities resulting from lightning may be mentioned the terrible thunderstorm of 1793 at Buenos Aires. So you know that when it mentions a specific event, it is documenting that herein, right? So books like this should be preserved because, again, as far back as you go to the source, the closer to the truth you're going to get. And this book was put out in 1890. So this was only 20 years before. This was in this writer's lifetime, which is important. All right. Electricity seems to kill by destroying nervous power. Nervous power, what does that mean? Let's continue. Cardenas tells of 8 reapers being killed while taking their meal under an oak. So reapers meaning people who worked outside and harvested grain. When the witnesses of the occurrence ran to the spot, they saw a strange sight. The victims seemed to be still busy with their frugal repast. One of them held his glass, another was putting some bread into his mouth, a third had his hand in the dish. The angel of death had struck them so violently that the whole surface of their bodies bore the marks of his black wings. They seemed so many statues sculpted in black marble. So they're telling you that people were out basically having a lunch, taking a break, and hiding from this storm. Or actually, they weren't hiding. They were caught. And what are we told about the day Christ comes? He will come as a thief in the night. That's basically what happened to these fools. They were outside when this lightning storm happened. And for whatever reason, they attracted it. And instead of it setting them on fire, it turned them black. Black goo, anyone? Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Now, I'm going to go ahead. I think there's a picture here. Yes. So there's the image that goes along with the anecdote we just read. How beautiful. Harvesters killed by lightning. So they were all still in the act of what they were doing. This guy's taking a little break, going to enjoy the fruits of his labor, literally. This guy sees what's coming, knows what's coming, has his sickle in his hand. That guy's just chilling, eating his lunch, or trying to. And that one in the background is playing off the fear of that guy. He sees what he sees. You see? Beautiful artwork. Beautiful. What I want to do real quickly, not saying that we won't finish the electric chapter, but I want to look. Right to the best conductors, much room for assist person outside of that. Twice the money for the lightning killed in our town. Okay. What I'm doing now is seeing there. Let's read this real quick. I try to be discriminatory in what I read because I know people's time is valuable and not everybody has a lot of time to sit around for a couple hours and listen to a video. So these cases of halos, now this is what we talked about at the beginning of this, about the TikTok videos and these halos people are seeing. They're always there, even on nice, beautiful days, depending on where you are in respect to the sun. It's easier to see them when the sun is setting. And all it is the sun reflecting off of the firmament. It is a reflection, that ring you see around the sun. They call them sun halos. However, sometimes they are stronger than other times. I'm also worried about lightning because right now we're seeing the aurora borealis being seen all over when that's not supposed to happen. So let's continue. These cases of halos and electric aureoles, thus far mentioned, have clearly played a far more important part in the history of nations than the more frequently occurring lightning stroke, merely because of the wonderful hold they have had upon the superstitious tendency of man. Leave Servius Tullius out of the history of Rome, or leave out the speech and aureole of Marcius, and who can say how different the face of the earth might be? More frequently observed, and because of its frequency comparatively unheeded in northern climates, is the aurora, which in the temperate zone has frequently inspired terror equal to the earthquake, though absolutely harmless. The writer recalls that a bright aurora not so very many years ago caused not a few superstitious folk to believe the end of the world was at hand. So again, you have this end of the world. People thought that in France. I don't have the book anymore, but it was a nonfiction book, and they were talking about the fall of France in the 1890s and how they thought it was the end there. We're seeing plagues are going to start happening again. Dysentery is going to be a big problem because, again, I'm seeing people that are just forgetting basics when it comes to hygiene, and I don't understand this, and I'm not trying to be a prude or anything like that. It is disconcerting, and it's disappointing. Hey, Dachawa, great light. Greetings. I apologize. I needed some water. Sorry. All right, let's a couple more minutes. They believe the red streamers. Now this is the auroras. This is, again, they're seeing red in the sky, much like we are today. They believe the red streamers to be the chariot of fire in which the Lord was speeding earthward. This was the great aurora of September 3rd, 1859. Now, what does that tell us? Number one, September is a big month for these things. Is also a little bit occultish that month. Things just seem to happen, and there's a lot of songs about September. So they're actually documenting here a great aurora of September 3rd, which was visible from the U.S. to Siberia, from the Cape of Good Hope in Australia to the north of Europe. That's wild. It was the most tremendous ever known and well calculated to terrify the superstitious. Oh, there's a note. What's it say? And even so late as 1872, the brilliant aurora, which was seen as far south as Alexandria, was believed by the intelligent Parisians to forebode terrible wars and the speedy overthrow of the hated Germans, who had so lately trampled their capital and their pride. So the Germans and the French were beefing. In the earlier days, the Northern Light had been deemed the harbinger of war, famine, or pestilence. So again, we're seeing this again. We're seeing the aurora borealis in places we shouldn't see it. And they're saying, this happened then. This is documentation that it actually happened September 3rd, 1859. And we're seeing a lot about this on TikTok, and we're seeing a lot about wars. So again, events seem to be cyclical. You have free will, though. We can stop this. We have to realize we have a common enemy, and we have to understand how to purge that even out of our own selves, and still love ourselves and forgive ourselves and each other at the same time, which is no easy feat. So the sooner we get to work on this, the better, because I believe that's what God's waiting on, is like our consent to willfully want to do better than we did yesterday or last year. Okay, so I'm going to try and read around this real quick. Humboldt and others since have supposed the aurora to be light emitted by the earth itself. Okay, that's what a lot of people say today about the aurora. But today, its electric character is proven beyond a doubt. Electric discharges passed through a tube containing greatly rarefied dry air produced the same effect on a small scale. That is wild. And every aurora produces a powerful disturbance of what? Magnetic instruments, much like the triangles, the one that's on land, I always forget the name, but like the Bermuda Triangle, right? And they're talking about the northern auroras, the aurora borealis, being seen in areas which it shouldn't be seen, right? Not normally, but in these times, in the changing of an era or an age. Sorry, I am in a lot of pain, and I'm trying to just deal and bring some, I think, valuable information that would do us well to pay attention to. Okay. There we go. We find occasional references to the aurora among ancient writers, but little attempt to explain it. So we have even few myths, if not being common enough in warmer climes to hold a place in popular tales. But in Ireland and more northern region, it is of constant and brilliant occurrence merely because it requires dry air, and the coldest air is the driest air, like Antarctica. So among Scandinavians, right, or Iceland, or Greenland actually. So among Scandinavian races appears the myth embodied by Longfellow in the saga of King Olaf, the war god. Thor speaks. We're going to end it on that note. We're going to read that, and oh wow. Look, guys. Land of the Aurora. Is this Antarctica? Are they speaking of Antarctica? Was it called Antarctica back then? Does anyone know? Oh my gosh, my leg is falling asleep. Oh no. And it's like tickling in a weird kind of way. So I'm going to read this and end this segment, but we'll read this. The light thou beholdest stream through the heavens in flashes of crimson is but my red beard, blown by the night wind, affrighting the nations. And Scott has told us of the belief in Scotland and the northern eyes of spirits abroad in the upper air. Prince of the air, power of the air. The monk gazed long on the lovely moon, then into the night he looked forth, and red and bright the streamers' light were dancing in the glowing north. So had been seen in the fair Castile, the youth in glittering squanderous start, sudden the flying genet wheel, and hurl the unexpected dart. He knew by the streams that shot so bright that spirits were riding the northern light. Wow, that is impactful and so deep. And there is a lot to unpack there. Let's see what else. The light emitted by the aurora varies much in intensity. Ordinarily, it is not greater than that of the moon in her first quarter, but a few instances are recorded where it was powerful enough to make itself perceptible by day, and on one occasion it was strong enough at night to cast a shadow in the midst of a Newfoundland fog. As the phenomenon has been carefully studied only within a century, it is not safe to affirm with certainty what records of the past 300 years have induced many to believe, that it is of special frequency at periods of 150 years. This can only apply to the temperate zones, for in the polar world, it is to be seen on almost every clear, still night. Okay, so they're telling you there that it is cyclical, that seeing the auroras in other areas appears to be cyclical, but that you should see them in the colder areas all the time, right? It's telling you at the poles, it will be seen to the farthest north and the farthest south. It's normal when you see them. You should be concerned when you don't normally see them, and there they are. M. Martins has given us a striking picture of the auroras. At times, they are simple, diffuse gleams or luminous patches. At others, quivering rays of pure white, which run across the sky, starting from the horizon as if an invisible pencil were being drawn over the celestial vault. That reminds me of the TikTok videos we were just talking about and how I said I saw it. I just didn't have my camera on me at the time. An inky mark in the sky, but like they saw in Tennessee, it was a circle ring there here it was just a straight line, and it was beside a plain trail, so it was almost like a shadow or a complete absence of light. You know what I mean? Like someone had taken an eraser and underneath the blue sky was black. So I find that very interesting. Starting from the horizon as if an invisible pencil were being drawn over the celestial vault. At times it stops in its course, the incomplete rays. How beautiful. Do not reach the zenith, but the aurora continues at some other point. A bouquet of rays darts forth, spreads out into a fan, then becomes pale and dies out. At other times, long golden draperies float above the head of the spectator and take 1,000 folds and undulations as if agitated by the wind. They appear to be at but a slight elevation in the atmosphere, and it seems so strange. The rustling of the folds as they double back on each other is not audible. Generally, a luminous bow is seen in the north. So again, we have that reference to bow, which coronation, corona meant bow. I'm not a doctor, no part of this is medical advice. The disclaimers will be in the description bar. Generally, a luminous bow is seen in the north. A black segment separates it from the horizon. It's dark. And again, I did not read this ahead, so it's wild. I was just talking about this. This is so weird. Generally, a luminous bow is seen in the north. A black segment separates it from the horizon. Its dark color forming a contrast with the pure white or red of the bow, which darts forth the rays, extends, becomes divided, and soon presents the appearance of a luminous fan which fills the northern sky and mounts nearly to the zenith, where the rays uniting form a crown, which in its turn darts forth luminous jets in all directions. I really wonder what color the sky used to be. Because we think there's water up there beyond the firmament, but we can't actually see through it, at least not right now. So it makes me wonder what color on the inside of the firmament here used to be reflected back at us. Is that why pictures of the 1800s were greatly censored and blimps and flying things were moved out of the sky? Again, these things were common knowledge in certain times. Something happened, and humanity became enslaved at this time, I believe, again. And God keeps saving us, though. Okay, the sky then looks like a cupola of fire. Blue, green, red, yellow, and white vibrate in the palpitating rays of the aurora. But this brilliant spectacle lasts only a few minutes. The crown first ceases to emit luminous jets and then gradually dies out. A diffuse light fills the sky. Here and there, a few luminous patches resembling light clouds open and close with an incredible rapidity, like a heart, that is beating very fast. They soon get pale in their turn. Everything fades away and becomes confused. The aurora seems to be in its death throes. The stars, which its light had obscured, shine with a renewed brightness, and the long polar night, somber and profound, again assumes its sway over the icy solitudes of ocean and earth. In the presence of such brilliancy and beauty, both poet and artist may despair. It may be copied only by the master hand that sent it flaming through the heavens. There is naught under the sun whereunto to liken it, and it is the electric flash which men may least fear. And yet, where are we? There we go. Even it has wrought evil at times, for its magnetic power disturbs the compass. And the electric storms, it's another reason I got a compass, not just to know where I'm going, but if it starts going wonky, then I know there's something magnetic in the atmosphere, and that's a good time to get your Faraday cage out, get one of those hats that blocks EMFs. All that material is basically acting as a Faraday cage for the human mind and body. I am wondering with these resets, when these things take place, if something happens to our memory, our collective memory, and this is why we have to keep restarting. Okay? And it might be very possible that we're supposed to be spiritually evolving, meaning learning from these experiences, and they may keep repeating until we have ascended as far as our frequency goes and how we treat each other. Are you kind? Do you forgive? Do you have road rage? Do you want to do harm to people? Are you a sadist? You know, it's all these things. This nihilistic, materialistic society we're living in is not sustainable, and it never has been. But you cannot force people to do a thing, much like communism or Marxism. You cannot force people into things. But at this time, I believe people are going to be forced to change and adapt or fall. Now, are you going to adapt with nature and its ways, or are you going to adapt with this new technocracy that is coming? Because it's not about democracy, it's about a technocracy. Remember that word, guys. I well remember, oh wow, this is funny. Okay, so they're saying at times it has wrought evil, for its magnetic power disturbs the compass, and the electric storms it betokens have more than once in the past caused electric wires to set objects near them on fire. This is why also you'll see some things catch fire and other things don't, like in California. I don't know that the government is doing those things. I think it's very possible the fallen are more than happy to blame it on human individuals while they, to basically gaslight us and use us as scapegoats and to make us feel as low as possible by condemning and blaming us. And you find a lot of these types of people who are in positions of power that should not have them. They are your everyday teachers. They are judges. They are policemen. They are people who abuse power. I well remember the powerful electric disturbances that attended a magnificent aurora in 1884. Oh, they're mentioning Arkansas because that's where a lot of quartz is, guys, which was visible as far as southern Arkansas. Depots were fired in many places by electric switchboards, one in Pennsylvania taking to fire 4 times. Wow. So that's like your operator when you picked up the phone and it was an operator and you'd say, get me such and such at this address, and they would connect you. A lot of those women and some men were actually undercover spies because they got a lot of information listening in on conversations and phone calls. This has been going on for millennia, guys. During this electric storm, telegraphs and telephones were temporarily useless. Somebody needs to check that real quick and see if that's when the Carrington event took place. That video I did on that and how the Carrington event basically proves that solar eclipses and events in the sky greatly affect what's going on down here on land. Okay, let's wrap this segment up. Such are the phenomena presented in the atmosphere by this most mysterious power, dreadful in the lightning's leap, strange and uncanny in the aerial's glow, wildly and weirdly beautiful in the flickering flash and flow of the northern light. We have seen that, though it has played an important part in the history of the world because of its appeal to man's superstition, it is, notwithstanding the occasional bolt of death, to be considered, while one of the most powerful and universal, one of the least to be feared, and is practically responsible for a few great disasters. Now, we have to discern what is truth and what is not. This person obviously enjoys his electricity and probably is biased and not even willing to look at how it affects the spirit, the frequencies that they are using, and how they are misusing the electricity around us every day to affect our bodies so that we cannot focus on the job at hand, which is why we're actually here, and that's to love each other and to be in peace and harmony and to learn how to love and forgive. Now, real quick, I wanted to head back to the table of contents and let you take a quick look. That way you can tell me in the comments below if there are any other sections that you would like to take a look at. I think we should look at the flood section because that might give us a good indicator into the mud flood. And I'll be brutally honest, there's a video from last year. If you look on the channel, it's a regular upload, not a live stream. So it'll be under that tab. And I said the mud flood might very well not have been mud. It might have had a lot to do with bad plumbing, the infrastructure not being kept up, and we could have that problem again. And that's where the plagues will come from, people, is the filth that will be in the streets. It will cause dysentery, it will cause plagues, it will cause more than you can even imagine. And right now, people are at most, not all, but a lot of individuals have all but forgotten basic hygiene. I don't know why, but it seems that they have. And certain things we are supposed to be doing because now we know better, right? But again, these plagues can be caused by filthy conditions, and there are a lot of flies everywhere. Consider who the Lord of Flies is. So here's the next section. And if you guys want to go to any specifically, let me know. Floods in the south, here it is. River is a universal problem. So you might, the flood of 1890, there it is. So if you want, that right there, guys, is documentation of the mud flood. If you want to take a look at that in the next live video, please comment below and let me know. Thank you for being here and spending your time with me. I'm going to go because this was a little longer than I had intended. But God bless you, and I love you. And remember to do all things from love and to forgive and to be charitable, not only with your time and money, because most people like to throw money at problems. Be charitable with your words. There are a lot of people going through hard times right now. Let's try and remember that not everybody is like you or me, and we all, it takes all kinds, right, to keep the world moving. So anyways, I love you guys. God bless you. Be discerning.